welcome to my channel, Willa Candy's channel. If you're new here, it's nice to meet you. And on this channel, I just eat food, and I share stories of my own, or either something that I've seen off in the news, and I also will read my Bible. And how is everyone doing today? I hope everyone is doing great on June the 24th, on this beautiful Wednesday. It's a beautiful time. Maybe going through a hard time, but always know that right around the corner is hope. Hope is not far from you, and just please, Peliacth, do not give up, because at the end of the day, there's a God up above who cares about you and will never leave your side. And today, I'll be reading the scripture first, and I'll also be telling about episode 19 of Tar Moment. It's called Welcome to Hades. And then I'll also be sharing a short story towards the end. Who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment, and that in regard to the oath of God, be not hasty to go out of his sight. Stand not in an evil thing, for he doeth whatsoever pleaseth him. Where the word of a king is, there is power. And who may say unto him, what doest thou? Whoso keepeth the commandment shall feel no evil thing. And a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment, because to every purpose there is time and judgment. Therefore the misery of a man is great upon him, for he knoweth not that which shall be, for who can tell him when it shall be? There is no man that hath power over the spirit to retain the spirit, neither hath he power in the day of death. And there is no discharge in that war, neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it. All this have I seen and applied my heart unto every work that is done under the sun. There is a time wherein one man ruleth over another to take his own hurt. And so I saw the wicked buried, who had come and gone from the place of the holy, and they were forgotten in the city where they had so done. Lord, forgive me. This is also vanity, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. Though a sinner do evil 100 times, in his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear God, which fear before him. But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before God. There is a vanity which is done upon the earth, that there be just men unto whom it happeneth according to the work of the wicked. Again, there be wicked men to whom it happeneth according to the work of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity. Then I commended mirth, because a man hath no better thing under the sun than to eat and to drink and to be merry, for that shall abide with him of his labor the days of his life, which God giveth him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to see the business that is done upon the earth, for also there is that neither day nor night seeth sleep with his eyes, then I beheld all the work of God, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun, because though a man labor to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. Yet farther, though a wise man think to know it, yet shall he not be able to find it. I read chapter 9. For all this I consider in my heart, even to declare all this, that the righteous and the wise in their works are in the hand of God. No man knoweth either love or hatred about all that is before them. All things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean, and to the unclean, to him that sacrificeth and to him that sacrificeth not. As is the good, so is the sinner, and he that sweareth as he that feareth an oath. This is an evil among all things that are done under the sun, that there is one event unto all, unto all, yet also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after that they go to the dead. For to him that is joined to all the living there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished, neither have they any more a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepteth thy works. Let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. Live joyfully with the wife whom that you lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which he hath given thee under the sun all the days of thy vanity. For that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which that you take is under the sun. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave. Whither that you goest, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in a snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and few men within it, and there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of wise men are heard, and quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. Share episode 19 of Tar Mama, and it's called Welcome to Hades. And the reason why the title is called Welcome to Hades is because Alexis is still into gambling. He just hangs out with his friend, he drinks and gambles. He doesn't drink like so heavy to become a wino, but like guys will get together, hang out with one another and drink. That's what he does with his friends. And he was coming back in one late night, and he was a little bit tired. Shelvania was already in the bed asleep. She wasn't, waiting up on her. She was tired. And Alexis had gotten kind of like so drunk on this night that he just laid back on the couch and fell asleep. And he thought that the pillow right next to him was Shelvania, so he was like, good night, Shelvania. Like, held on to the pillow and closed his eyes and just dozed off to sleep, catch disease. But when he fell asleep, he fell into a dream. And in this dream, he dreamed that he was laying right in the same position on the couch, holding on to the pillow. It was like a circle, old-fashioned pillow with the stitching to it and everything. He dreamed that he was still on the couch sleeping. But when he woke up, that's when out of nowhere, the floor underneath the couch collapsed and caved it in like some sinkhole. And the whole couch had fell down in the floor. But it didn't, just fall down to the floor. It fell down straight to Hades, aka hell, aka eternal fire. And Alexa was like, where the HMI at? He was looking all around. He could tell for one that he was not in his living room sitting down. He called Shelvania's name. He could not hear Shelvania. And he just all he saw was like a deep red mist, like everywhere around him. Really hot. Felt it like he was sitting in the heater. and like the heat in this place was like just so thick that it was hard for him to take a breath in and take a breath out. And Alexa was just looking around like, where the H am I at? Looking all around. And then once he had said that, that's when like this voice, this wicked sounding voice, had said out loud, "Welcome to Hades." And Alexis turned around and seen this man who was supposed to be the DVL, aka the devil. And this man had horns. He was like holding like this pitchfork like thing, and he had long fingernails, and he was just holding this pitchfork thing. He said, "Welcome to Hades." And then he had pulled it out a list. He said, "I had you right on my list." And then he said, "Give me a pen." And when he said, "Give me a pen," this littler light thing that's like a little demon had came up right behind this big Satan, and had handed him something that was like a pen. And like he marked a check right beside Alexis Hazelwood's name that he had on the list. And Alexis was like, no, this can't be. This can't be. Like what am I doing here? They're like, let me remind you. And then he ended up getting a few other evil ones to strap Alexis up to like this chair. It was like this chair that was made of stone, but it was like hot stone. And Alexis was just like couldn't barely sit down in it because it was just burning his back and his bottom and stuff like that. And like they was just strapping him up to this hot stone, and they was like forcing him to watch his own self on this huge screen. And like he watched it like himself, gambling with his friends. And then the man had pointed his pitchfork at the screen, said, "Is this you?" Said, "Is this you, right? This you?" And Alexa was like, "Yeah, how you get a video of me?" And then he said, "Oh, I watches everything that you do. And I was waiting for you to come to the right place." And Alexis was like sitting in the chair. He was watching himself hang out with his friends, talking and laughing about things that, under the sun when guys get together. Like when they was together, the other guys would talk about other women. And Alexis, he loves Shelvania dearly, but he also would join in on the conversation talking about them other women that, like they laid eyes on. Like he'll be out hanging out with his friends on the streets and say like this beautiful woman gets out her car and about to head in the store, and they'll like like woof was like, "Oh, you sure look fine, woohoo," stuff like that, and drinking, passing drinks to one another. And then the main thing, they goes into the church to gamble. And the pastor warned them many times about it. Alexis, it showed Alexis on the screen the time when I told on the episode, I think it was the very first or second episode of Tar Mama, where I said like how the pastor broke in and told all of them that they was gonna go to hell for gambling in the church, and they was telling him like to mind his business and get out of there, old man and stuff like that. And the pastor ended up going back to Shelvania, telling Shelvania what Alexis been doing. Alexis ignored that man. It showed on his big screen that he ignored the man and kept right on, shooting dice. And it showed all of that. And then this devil man was just letting him know like he's in the right place. And Alexa was like, no, I'm not in the right place. I want to go back home. I want to go back in my living room where I was laying on the couch, and I want to go where my wife is at and all. And then it was like this devil thing. This devil man, he had like this remote control in his hand where like like you switch the channel on TVs. He switched it to like another channel, and this other channel that he switched it to was Shelvania. Shelvania was sitting on the couch, and she had her legs folded. She was like dressed in like like regular clothes and stuff. She had her hand on her knee and stuff. She was like, "Well, I told Alexis many times that he to let go of them dices and quit gambling so much, but no, he don't never listen to me. He always says he's a grown man and he can do what he want. So he got his own self in that place, and I can't save him. I can't help him out. And then once she said that, Alexa was like, Sylvania, no, don't go. But the devil man turned it to another video, another channel on the screen, and then the other channel was like a group of his friends, that was on the screen, but it was like they was in a different place in Hades, aka hell. And on this screen, they was screaming out, to Alexis, telling Alexis to help them out because they is in some other place shackled up getting tortured in Hades, while Alexis was strapped down to a chair getting prepared to get tortured. And Alexis' heart was just throbbing in his chest. He was scared, looking all around. He was like, no, what is Ricochet and them doing here? And then the devil's man said, wah, they is here for the same thing that you've been doing. And then the man ended up saying out that Ricochet, one of his dates was a married woman, and he knew that she was married and kept right on, talking to her, messing around with her. And one of the other men, I think it was Domino and Shrimp, they had stole tithe money out of the church before. So, all of them have done things that was sinful, that had landed them in hell. Some of them was in there for like lies that they had told when they was kids. Even Alexis, he told lies to his mother, like his mother figure, Rosaline, aka Mama Rosie. And that's what really broke him down, is when Mama Rosie appeared to him in an angelic form, like she had on like all white, and she was kind of he was able to like kind of see through her, but she still came up in like a form in front of him, and she had on all white, this beautiful white dress, and she was just looking at him like, and he was like, Mama Rosie, you there? And she was like, Alexis, I'm so disappointed in you. And he was like, Mama Rosie, I'm sorry, and I miss you. I always think about you. I always visit your grave and stuff like that. And she was like, you have to turn those dices in. You have to change your ways, Alexis. You have to take those dices that you have in your pocket and throw them in the garbage. You have to quit the sinful life that you live in. Like, I don't want you to go down this road. I want you to go down the narrow way, the narrow road, like it says in the Bible. And Alexis like nodded his head and is like, okay, Mama Rosie, I'm gonna make a change. I don't want to be here. I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna give up the dice. I'm gonna give up everything. And he tried to reach out to his Mama Rosie, but she disappeared. And the devil man, yet laughed in his face more like, ha 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 ha. You're with me forever. And Alexa was like, no. And then one thing he said, Jesus, help me. He yelled out, Jesus, help me. Jesus, save me. Once he said that, at the blink of an eye, poof, he was right back laying on the couch looking around in his living room. He was back to where he was at. And it was morning time. And Shelvania was just in the kitchen cooking the bacon, and she was humming, and there was music playing on the little radio. And so she was like, and then she looked it over and said, good morning, Alexis. And Alexis, wait, Shelvania, you right there. And then he walked it right in the kitchen and hugged her so tightly. He's like, what is wrong with you? He was like hugging on her, kissing on her cheek. And he said, Shelvania, I am so sorry. I promise you, I'm not going to gamble anymore. I'm not going to hang out late at nights anymore. I'm going to change my ways. You want the dice? Here it goes. I don't want them no more. You can have them. Like, he gave up the dice and everything. And Shelvania said, okay, what is with this bit change? Like, what made you want to change all of a sudden? And he told her about what he saw, the dream and everything, who he saw in this place. dream, a vision that he had. And Shelvania was scared for him, and she was happy to hear that he wanted to change his life around. She said, well, I'm so happy to hear that, Alexis. You don't know how much that really warms my heart that you want to give up gambling, because I hate gambling. And of course, it's not right to gamble in the church. And the Alexis like, yes. And you know what? As of now, I'm going to start praying more often. I'm going to start getting on my knees praying and talking to God, giving God, time. Having time with God instead of hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. And that's what he did. He had quit hanging out with Ricochet and all of them. And he told Ricochet that he saw the rest of them in that place. And once he said that, Ricochet and them took it as a joke. Like, you kidding me, right? You mean to tell me you gonna give up dice? Like, you gonna give this up? Like, as many times as we have rolled the dice across the sidewalk and had beat fools down to their socks. That's what Ricochet has said. And Alexis said, I do not gamble anymore. I'm definitely not going to do it in the church. And I don't drink anymore either. And I'm going to try to not curse either. Alexis wanted to change and turn away from all of that. He didn't want to drink or none of that. So his friends was looking at him like he had two heads. Like, Alexis, like, you don't sound right. It sounds like you need to be in the loony bin or something like that. Need to be in, like, you sounded almost like a nutcase. That's what they were thinking about Alexis. But Alexis did not care what, they thought about him. He would rather be a friend to Jesus than to be a friend. He'd rather be a friend to Jesus than to be friends and with his friends, and continuing to gamble and do other stuff under the sun with his friends. But, like, and Alexis changed fully. Like, he changed everything about himself. That includes time of intimacy that he used to have with his wife. He quit doing that. He quit doing that because he felt like, he didn't felt right, even though he was married. And, like, it says in the Bible about how it's best to, get close to your significant other. It's best to be married than to, not be married and fornicate, I guess. Say something like that in the Bible. But, Alexis, even though he's already married to the love of his life, he do not want to do none of that intimate stuff anymore. And, and that bothered Shelvania. Like, she had went out somewhere with her sisters and had came back, like, with some perfume and some more lingerie and stuff. She wanted to show it off to Alexis. And Alexis was like, Shelvania, this right here, you held it up because she had handed it to him. Like, what you think? And they were like, Shelvania, that piece of clothing right there, that looked like something that some floozy would wear. Like, you need to go take them, all that lingerie, them bag of clothes and stuff, and that perfume, and just take it somewhere and throw it down in an incinerator. I think the incinerator is like a place where you, like, burn stuff. And hold on, bro. Yeah, he told her that, like, she, better go take all that bag of stuff that she got from, the shopping area and throw it down in the incinerator. Get out of the apartment, throw it down in the incinerator. And the Shelvania took the bag. Like, you must be crazy. I'm not about to take my stuff to the incinerator. Like, you better go and jump inside the incinerator yourself. Like, that's what she told her husband. And Alexis was like, that's okay. That's just Satan that wants you to hold on to that stuff. And Shelvania said, are you hearing yourself, Alexis? I am not burning this stuff that I bought with my money out of my pocketbook. Like, I'm going to keep it and I'm going to wear it. And then she'll like, listen, I'm glad that you turning your life around and everything. But it's almost like we're not, that close anymore. Like, she was starting to see, like, a bit change. She started to see, like, a bit change with him. And he said, oh, yeah, we can still be close. We can read the Bible together. Turn the TV off. We can listen to some nice, beautiful gospel music. Something like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. He was telling her that they could do stuff like that. And Shelvania like, no, I do not want to do nothing like that. Like, I want to, go out to the movies like we did before. Me, you, one of your friends, and a date of theirs. We all can go out together to a movies. Or you could take me out to a movie yourself. We'll just have to walk, but, I'll be fine with that. And Alexis was like, no. As of now, he looked at his watch, said, I got to go to the bathroom and do the watch hour. I got to pray. You more than welcome to join right with me to pray. And Shavanya said, I'm alright. You just go ahead and pray. I'm gonna put on my lingerie. And that's how, the nights would be. Alexis would want to pray. How he used to be, his old self would jump right into the bed, cuddle up with Shelvanya. They'd be intimate like a normal married couple. But on these days, since he really made a change with himself, he did not want to get into that stuff like that. He wanted to focus on praising God, because that vision really did scared him straight. That vision scared him away from dice. It scared him away from alcohol and all that stuff like that. He wanted it to stay away from all of that. But Alexis changed a lot, but the devil made sure, like the serpent that he is that crawls in the grass, he made sure to come back into Alexis' life some kind of way. He's seen that Alexis is making a change. That's one thing about the devil. He's seen that you're making a change in your life, and he'll try to find many ways of coming into your life. And especially when you're trying to strive to make it into the kingdom of God. And with Alexis, the devil's seen that Alexis was trying to make a change. He'll, watch him from wherever the heck he's at, either in hell or someplace else, through somebody. They're like, okay, he wants to change, and I'm gonna get him with something else. And what he did with Alexis, he had came to Alexis through this woman. It was this woman, I'll say like a bohemian hippie type of woman. This woman was a bohemian hippie type of woman, and her name was Mercy Barnes. And she just had on, like a hippie like person back in the late 60s. But this whole fictional story takes place in the early 80s. But she dressed it like she fell out of the late 60s. And like Alexis had ended up catching eyes on her, because he was out there trying to preach. And some of the folks were listening to him. And it was this man that lived it on the streets. It was this man who lived it on the streets, and he, was a, heavy drinker. And his name was Isaac Kitchen, aka Hambone. And Hambone, he came up with like a drink in his hand. He was sort of like a wino, and he hung out on the streets. And he came staggering up to Alexia like, hey, didn't I see you and your friends standing around here rolling dice on the ground? And Alexa said, I'm not like that no more. I changed for God. And the man said, well, that's good that you changed. And speaking of change, do you have some loose change in your pocket that I, can use to get me another drink? And Alexis was like, no, my brother, I do not have no change on me as of now, because I left my wallet at home. But I can read something to you that it can help you change your life around, where you can drop down that devil's poison that you swallowing down. And the man said, this is poison? Well, how come when I be drinking it, late at nights when it get too cold, it be warming me up? And then Alexis said, yeah, because them drinks is from the devil. Why do you think it's called spirits? You got the spirit of drunkenness in you. And Alexis said, but don't worry, I got the cure. I'ma read to you. And when Alexis was reading, he was reading out to the man, but the man didn't want to hear it. He ended up staggering away, but that didn't stop Alexis from reading. Alexis just kept on reading the Bible. And once Alexis got done, he sat somewhere and called himself, just closing his eyes and sitting to himself, talking to God. So where he kind of was getting isolated. Like, he was isolated. He wasn't around his friends. His friends was like basically avoiding him. Ricochet them just with talking about him to other guys, saying like how crazy he is acting. Alexis done lost his mind. That's what they were thinking. Like, he done lost his mind ever since he started to change his life around and he seen that vision. And it was that same lady, Mercy Barnes, and she came up and said, peace, my brother. It's very nice to meet you, and I must say that you read that Holy Bible beautifully. And Alexis said, you think so? And then she was like, yes. My name is Mercy Barnes. What is your name? And Alexis said, my name is Alexis Hayeswood. It's nice to meet you. And they just conversated, And she ended up, telling about herself, and that she has like a whole like organization, going on, like a whole like group thing going on. Well, I'm gonna just say she has a church of her own, and it has like she said, in this church she talks about God and Jesus Christ and stuff, and she has followers, and she would love for him to be one of her followers. And Alexis agreed, like, yes, I'll love to be one of your fathers. One of your followers. I'll love to join your church. And then she said, but to join my church, before you join my church, right at the door, it's gonna be like this big barrel where you will have to give over every possessions in your life. You have to give over something important. And she said, and I see something really important. She grabbed this finger that Alexis wore his wedding ring on. Yes, she wanted Alexis' wedding ring. She seen it costed something, and she was like, and then Alexis like, oh yeah, this is my wedding ring that I got from my wife. But my wife haven't really been talking to me like that. She's mad with me because I'm changing my ways. My wife and my friends thinks that I'm crazy. And then Mercy said, that's what happens when you start to wake up. Like she grabbed him from under his chin and, roasted him up off of the ground. She said, but when you join my church, you and I and everyone else will become one. And all of us will be on a mission. To do something to save ourselves. So she got Alexis to join this church. And the reason why I say church is because it wasn't really a church. She tricked Alexis into joining this cult. She was a cult leader, Mercy Brown. And I would say this is something very similar. So viewer's description is advised. It's something very almost similar to the Jim Jones massacre. If you don't know what happened around the Jim Jones massacre in the late 70s, I suggest you look it up. It may be too sensitive for you to, to look up. It is sensitive. From what I found out when I was younger, all I can say is you don't know what it is. There's something called Google where you can look it up. But it's horrible. That's where the term, like, don't drink the Kool-Aid come from. Because, all I can say, I'm not going to get deep into it now. It's pretty graphic, but that's about comparable to this. He's joining the cult. This cult leader is not right, Mercy Brown. Mercy Brown also, she has like wild looking curly hair. She wears like this dark makeup around her eyes, lipstick. She got like different beads and jewels around her. Like I said, just dressed it very bohemian, hippie like. And she got some tattoos too. But she rose Alexis up off his feet like, join me. Join my church. You will be a part of my community. But she tricked Alexis into a cult. And she had clothes for Alexis. Alexis had to get out of the clothes that he was in. And he had to slip on, some other clothes. Shelvanya's family and his friends had no clue that Alexis had joined the cult. Alexis had came back home. And also within this cult, he could not live. He could not live at his original house. Hold on for a minute. He could not live at his house. He had to live in this church around this cult leader. Like, she had beds and stuff in them. Like, they slept on cots. Alexis did not feel comfortable sleeping on a cot. Like, he was used to sleeping beside his wife at home in bed. But Shelvanya have not been seeing Alexis. Like, he came back and kissed her like one last time, and he'll like, I got to go. I love you. And Shelvanya said, go where? Then he looked it back before leaving out the door. He said, I'm on a mission. God bless you. And then he left out, and Shelvanya would think to herself like, something ain't right. And she joined up with her mother and her sisters to find out what the heck is going on with Alexis. And Alexis ended up a card, and she didn't know where Alexis was at. But Alexis did not know that a card that, Mercy Brown had gave him, it was a card where it had her number on it. It had her number and the address where the church was at. And the card had fell out of Alexis' pocket and fell on the floor when he was leaving out the door. And Shelvanya picked it up, the card, and was like, And she tried to call the number. And it was saying something about like services and how Mercy was unavailable. And And then Shavanya like, this don't even sound like a real church. Something is fishy with all of this. I'm gonna have to find where this address is at. But she didn't have a car. One of her sisters did. And that's what they end up doing together. She ended up telling the friends, have they seen Alexis? And then Ricochet said he only seen him, and then he came out his place saying the same stuff that he told Shelvania, that he is on a mission, that he has to, do this mission with these other people, and his leader, his cult leader, Mercy Brown. And they knew that something was fishy about this. And it was Fat Cat that had figured it all out. Like, it sounds like to me, I know this sounds crazy, but it sounds like to me that Alexis joined the cult. And we got to go save him, because them cults can be dangerous. Have you heard what happened with the Jim Jones thing? This was still in the early 80s. The stuff that happened with the Jim Jones thing, I think in somewhere in Central America, I don't know, or in Africa, I don't know. But it's on Google. But it happened not too long ago, like around this time. Like, it happened not too long ago. It was in the late 70s. This fictional story takes place in the early 80s. So yeah, they thought about the Jim Jones massacre immediately. Fat Cat thought about the Jim Jones massacre when he heard that Alexis had went on to join this church. And they all came together to save Alexis, get Alexis out of the situation that he's in. So Alexis, he was on his way of, being permanently trapped into this cult. And he had to change his whole attire up, his clothes and everything, his speech, the way he spoke. And he had to give up his possessions. He had gave up not only his wedding ring, he gave up pictures of Mama Rosie. It was things that meant a lot to him. Pictures of his Mama Rosie, his own mama. Some of his clothes, his watch, his wallet, with all of his personal stuff in there, ID, everything. Social security card, everything in there personal, he threw in his barrel. And everybody threw their possession in his barrel. And Mercy Brown had it all. Okay, I got everybody's stuff. Now you're a member. Now you have to sit and we got to pray. And Mercy Brown also fooled Alexis too, because it wasn't about Jesus Christ, and it wasn't about the Most High God. It wasn't about the Most High at all. She fooled Alexis into joining a cult where every member in the cult prays to a dog. Yes, it was like this dog. It was like this dog that Mercy had, been having since she was 16 or 15 years old. And she thought in her mind that her great grandmother had spoke it through this dog, because it was said her great grandmother had powers, had some type of healing powers, is mystical type of woman, that a medicine type of lady. And she had passed years ago, way before the 80s. And Mercy believed that her dog, who had passed away, she kept this dog, got him what's it called, taxidermy, I forgot what you call it, but she went to a taxidermy and got her dog, made like that, where he still looks the same. And she has some colorful cloth wrapped it over her dog, where it represents a dog, the dog wearing a robe. So she fooled Alexis into some foolery mess that did not have nothing to do with Jesus Christ or God. And Alexis did not know this, that he was praying to something else and not Jesus Christ or God. He wanted to turn his life around, but like I said, the devil found his way in his life. And Shavanya and them, they was trying to go inside the cult, but there was people at the door, some security. These security didn't dress like security. They dressed it just like the other members. But these security men, they had one of them had a pew pew in their hand. It was this big pew pew too. And they were no one can't get in. You got to, if you want to be a member, you got to drop all your possessions in the barrel. We're not trying to be a member. We're trying to get somebody out of there, somebody who we know very well. And then he said, once a member, always a member. That's what the security had told, Shelvania and them at the door. And Shelvania was about to go off talk. What you mean, what's a memory? And then one of her sisters had to calm her down. Like, calm down, Shelvania. We're going to figure out something. Just calm down. So she was like, where is my husband? Shelvania asked him again. And then he was like, we're sorry, but we don't know who your husband is. And then she said, my husband Alexis is in there, okay? Because the address is on this car. And she showed them the car. But they still would not let all of them in. Shelvania and her sisters and her mothers and Alexis' friends. Them security men would not let Shelvania in. Shelvania and them in. So Shelvania and them, well, one of her sisters, Shamira, they end up figuring out something. Shamira and the mother and Shelvania's other sister, Vatsima. They end up figuring out something. Like, okay, all of y'all, they told all of Alexis' friends, Ricochet and them, that they're going to have to find a way to get in there, pretend to be a member, and give up the things that they have on them. And Ricochet said, well, all I got is my wallet. And she said, well, that's your possession. That's something that you have on you. You throw it inside the barrel for now, for temporary. This is to save Alexis. This is to save your friend. You don't want your friend to be stuck in the cult, and I do not want to lose my husband. That's what Shelvania said. So Ricochet and them gave up whatever they had in the barrel to become members. And they had to put on the attire. And Fat Cat, every attire that they had, he could not fit. So they had to wrap some cloth around him some kind of way where he looked like he fell out of Greek mythology or something. He had like the like how the folks looked at way back years ago, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago in Greece or whatever. He had a wrap cloth around him because he could not fit any of the attire that the folks had. And once they saw Alexis bowing down praying to the dead dog, they came up and said, Alexis, because Mercy Brown went to the back and she prays like way to the back personally to herself, and she also was looking through the barrel of possessions like to see what she had collected from everybody. And then she did not know that Alexis' friends had joined in as members. Only the security had let them through after they had threw their stuff in the barrel. And they were just shaking them like, Alexis, come on, get up. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here before she comes back. And Alexis were like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, we came to get you up out of this crazy A church. Come on, man. And before they could get Alexis out, Mercy Brown came up and said, we have new members. And then she said, time to rise and shine. And then she said, today's the day that it's time for us to do our mission. And then Ricochet and them were looking at each other and was just saying like mutters like, what mission is she talking about? And Alexis like, we got to do a mission, to save ourselves. It's like, but she said, well, this is not the actual mission. On this day, it's just the practice day. The next day is going to be the actual day where we got to do the mission. AKA, all I can say is the S word. SUICIDE. That's what she wanted them to do. And it had to do with a drink. Just like I said, the term, don't drink the Kool-Aid. She had gave them a drink, every last one of them with some food. But nothing was wrong with this drink or food. So they basically had free lunch. And like it was food that was bland, so Ricochet and the rest of them along with the rest had to eat that. It was like rice-a-roni, but like bland rice-a-roni with like some lemon Kool-Aid. Rice-a-roni with some lemon lime Kool-Aid and like some berries on the side. None of the stuff was tainted, like nothing was wrong with it. And Fat Cat was killing this food. And Ricochet was looking at it, I don't eat that mess. I don't even eat rice right. I'm about to eat this mess. Something probably wrong with it. And Alexis was like, nothing is wrong with it. You guys just eat it. But only Fat Cat ate his food. And he like, do the rest of y'all want y'all food? All right, give me your plate. Shoot. I'm going to eat it myself. Thank you. Like, he was killing his food while the rest of them didn't want to eat their food. So Ricochet and them had to stay in the church. But Shelvania and them were nearby, sitting up. Shelvania stayed with her sisters in her sister's car. her sisters and her mother were all sitting somewhere not too far from the church in like a car, watching out for things and hoping that Ricochet and them get can successfully get Alexis out of the church. But the very next day, it was time for the mission, and the mission was that they had to, eat the food again, the same old food, rice and roni, but it was a different type of Kool-Aid. It was like cherry Kool-Aid, cherry Kool-Aid with like a rice meal, rice and some type of meat mixed in it type of meal, and some berries, some mixed berries, a cup of mixed berries, like a small cup. But this stuff was tainted. It had some poison on it, poison on it, like it had some sprayed on it. And Lexus started to wake up on his day. Like he wasn't, like zoned out, like worshiping the doll. He was woke right along with his friends in the hill, like, something ain't right on this day. And he looked it around and seen some folks falling dead after taking falling DEAD, viewer's description is advised. He's seen some folks falling over and just dying, foaming from the mouth and stuff, throwing up, squirming around in agony after consuming his food and drinking his Kool-Aid. And, he was scared to eat his. He was like, I don't know if I should eat mine. I think this stuff is poisonous. And, Mercy Brown came to the table where Alexis and them is at. She said, I hope you're enjoying the food. Eat up. And Alexis was like, ma'am, before I eat my supper, my dinner, can I go use the bathroom? Like, is there like a bathroom in here? Cause I've been holding my urine in since yesterday, which he wasn't. Alexis was trying to find a way to make it up out of there, and he did. And Mercy Brown said, "Oh, it's in the back." And and she made sure to let a security, take Alexis to the back. Him and his friends to the back. The security had guided his friends because Ricochet and the rest of them also said, like, yeah, we got to use the bathroom too, before we eat our food and drink our Kool-Aid. Everybody else around was, just dying, like, all around. Like, it was just strange, weird, creepy, and evil stuff going around. And once they got to the back, they attacked that security guard. They got a hold of that security guard. Ricochet took the gun out of his hand, like, now what? Now what? You pointing the gun? You pointing the pew-pew at us? We pointing the pew-pew at you. And they made him strip, took off his clothes, and they tied him up and left him in that bathroom. And they left the heck up out of their way at the back of the church. And Mercy Brown did not know that they had left out of the church. She didn't even try looking for them, because she herself had to also eat the food and also, drink the Kool-Aid. But she didn't want to do that, so she instead decided to do something else that was still leaning over to SUICIDE, and that's how she met her demise. She, herself, to keep from eating the food and dying slowly in agony, just like with everyone else. And this was very, this was kind of similar, but not as gruesome. Well, it is gruesome, but I think Jim Jones Massacre were way worse, because this is a fictional story, but it's based off of, what had happened with the Jim Jones Massacre. Just be careful taking cars for people. That's why some folks be slamming doors in Jehovah's Witness faces and stuff. Like, be careful, just shaking hands with somebody, because sometimes you can literally be shaking hands with the devil. And Alexis, that's who he realized he shook hands with when he shook Mercy Brown's hand. She claimed to be a believer of God and a believer of Jesus Christ and had fooled him into her church. And he got the heck up out of there, took off them clothes. It was a whole big investigation. Alexis, just went off somewhere. He went off somewhere and just had to clear his mind out. And and Shelvania had a long talk with him. It was like the two of them had sat on a bridge together. It was like this bridge somewhere in Germiston. Some people would sit up there. Some couples or some friends would sit up there and hang out. It was like this high bridge. And right below the bridge is like, dry land. and like kind of like a lake nearby. And Alexis was just sitting on that bridge, and he was just staring off at the sun. And he said he almost messed up. He almost messed up his life, and he said, "You can't trust anyone." And Shavanya said, "You sure can't." And she said, "Alexis, listen to me." And she took his hand and sat in her lap. She said, "If you want to go to church, you could come with me and my sisters, me, Shamora, Voxima, and Mama. You could come with us and go to church with us. If you, I can read the Bible with you. But I also want to know, do you love me still?" And Alexis was like, "Of course I love you." And they both kissed each other. And she said, "Now I have you know that I still did not burn up my lingerie. I still have it in the bag." And Alexis was like, "And that's okay. You can keep your lingerie. I actually found it beautiful." And then she'll like, "And don't just trust anybody. Don't take no cards from anybody. Don't shake hands with anybody." She'll like, "If you want to go to church, you could come with me and my family, and just leave that other stuff alone." And the whole case that had to do with Mercy Brown, there was probably like about like a few survivors that survived that. They had ran off, gotten away, because she had some other folks. It was like this area, like this other area not too far from the church, almost similar to a shed, like a shack, where she had other people held in there for punishment. No people escaped it and told it all on Mercy. But Mercy was gone right along with the other members. And the folks who was a part of what Mercy was doing, along with the security people, they had got the cuffs put on them. And it was just a case that was being played over and over again on the news. And Alexis and them were just sitting back on the TV and couldn't believe their eyes that Alexis had almost got himself a part of that. He could have been one of the victims, them along with Ricochet and the rest of them. But God was with him. And that's basically the end of this episode, called episode 19. I also want to throw in another story called it's called Bittersweet Symphony. And it takes place in a fictional area of Massachusetts, and the year is 2003. And it's about a character. It's about a character named Edwin Starr, and he's in a relationship with this girlfriend named Monica. And Monica has a drinking problem. She has a drinking problem, and it was right on Edwin's birthday, where she got, well, not on Edwin's birthday. It was like a party that Edwin had thrown. And she was like getting pissed and drunk. It all has to do with childhood trauma that made her grew up to be a drinker. But like, she was getting pissed and drunk, and Edwin was getting on her like, "Look at you, look at how hammered you are. Like, you need to put down the bottle." Like, he was getting on her, and she was like fussing back with him like, "You don't tell me what to do. I'm grown." Da 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 da. Like, they were just going back and forth. Her and Edwin always had issues between each other, but they had been a couple since they was children. And Monica was also doing scandalous stuff, like flirting with other guys at that party right in front of her boyfriend Edwin. And that's when Edwin had to pull her, to the back, like, "What you trying to do? You trying to make a fool out of me?" And Monica said, "You making a fool out of yourself." Like, she was drunk and fussing all up in his face, and they were just going back and forth. And people was, hearing that through the door, like hearing Monica scream back at Edwin, like, "You don't tell me what to do. I am grown." Like, she was on a drunken rage. And Edwin, like, "You know what? I just threw my hands up. I'm not going to tell you what to do anymore. I'm going to leave out and let you cool off." Like, "You don't have to wait for me to cool off. Why don't you get out of here and leave me the heck alone?" And then once the party was basically over, it ended really early. Alexis, because there's also a character named Alexis in this too. It's an old story that I came up with, but I never got to actually make it into a book or anything. Alexis Narwhal. Alexis Narwhal is one of Edwin's friends. Edwin had some friends. It was Marion and Claude Jonesbury, Marion McQuarrie. No. It was It was a Alexis and Edwin, and I forgot the rest of Edwin's friends, but I know Alexis was one of his friends. And once it was just, Alexis ended up stepping into the room where Edwin and Monica had like a fight between each other, like verbally. He was like checking on her. Monica went in there crying and laying on the bed. She's like, "Oh, Alexis," and she fell into his his arms, and he like held on to her like, "You all right, Monica?" And then she's like, "No, I'm not all right. Edwin is judging me. He was fussing with me, saying that I'm embarrassing him and all of that." And Edwin like, "Don't." I mean, not Edwin. Alexis was like, "Don't even worry about it." Like he was rubbing her back, and then they sat down together and they just had like a nice little talk. She was saying like she can't help it and stuff like that. And then she ended up getting sick on her stomach. She ended up like and then she ended up spitting out on Alexis shoes. Yep, right near his shoes. Alexis like, and then she was like, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." And like, "It's okay." Like you're rubbing the top of her head. So that's why I like you, Alexis, because you're so caring. Like you care about me. Edwin don't give a flip about me. And they're like, "Sure he does. Edwin loves you." And like, "No he don't. That's why I wish I had a boyfriend like you. I wish I had a guy who cared about me. I wish I had a guy like you who cared about a person like me." And as she was going on, that's when Monica leaned in and tried to kiss Alexis. And Les was like, whoa. Like, hold on. Edwin's my friend. I don't want to do that. And then Monica was like, he doesn't have to know. Like, she was still trying to grab his face. Like, Monica, you drunk? You need to lay down. I'm going to go get you something to drink. And then he went out, left out the room really quickly to get her something to drink. Nobody else was in the house around this time. Everybody was, was standing outside talking. But it was just Alexis and Monica left in the house. And when Alexis came back in there, Monica had, started, undressing. Viewer's description is advised. And she, got up in Alexis' ear and was like whispering like, he doesn't have to know. Like she was still drunk. And she said she didn't want the drink. She knocked the drink out his hand. And her and Alexis, came together and did things that they had no business doing. And the whole time Edwin along with everybody else was outside and had no idea that was going on. Alexis fell in and betrayed his best friend by sleeping with his drunk girlfriend Monica, who was clearly going through issues. And after a while, you know what happens? After a while, 9 months later, Monica's belly showed, and she came to Edwin, not Alexis. She told Alexis, but Alexis didn't want to have nothing to do with the baby. And Alexis was already in a relationship with a girl already, and her name was Zalika. He was already in a relationship with a girl named Zalika, but he was doing Zalika wrong already. He was already going dates on some other girls behind her back. But Zalika had no idea that Alexis had did something like this behind her back and also betrayed his friend. So Edwin, he thinking to himself like, "Oh, I'm going to be a father. My girlfriend is pregnant now. Hopefully she don't drink while, pregnant." Monica told him this. But Monica had already spilled the truth out to another friend of hers. It was this girl named Tara, and she had told Tara like I don't know if I should tell him or not. And Tara like, "Well, you need to tell him. You don't need to keep hiding this from him. Eventually he's gonna find out." She said, "Well, I guess he's just gonna have to find out because I'm not ready to tell him." So after she gave birth to the baby, it was a baby girl, Edwin's daughter, and she named the little girl Erin, Arena. Arena, and she had gave the girl, her last name, but named the girl after Edwin, her father. And it was one day where it was just Monica and Edwin sitting in the living room, and like Edwin was watching his little girl Erin or Arena, sitting on the floor playing with some toys, and he realized something. He realized that this little girl didn't look anything like him. This little girl looked like his friend Alexis. He was like, Monica, why is Aaron looking more like Alexis than looking like me. Like, she doesn't have no resemblance at all with me or anybody in my family. And Monica was like, well, maybe because, you and Alexis is really close friends and stuff like that. Monica did not tell what had happened. But Tara, Monica's friend, just thought that it was just something so dirty that she should not keep from, Edwin. And she ended up telling Edwin herself what had happened between Monica and Alexis. And once she did that, Edwin felt betrayed, like he was hurt, like, oh my God, my best friend and my girlfriend got together and did something like this, and now this child is not even mine. This child came into this world and not even mine. He said, but you know what? I'm gonna forgive him, and I'm gonna continue to, accept this. He accepted Aaron, even though Aaron was not, really his daughter. Aaron's father was really Alexis, but Alexis did not want to have nothing to do with the baby. And also, Alexis ended up catching the HIV, aka AIDS. He ended up catching that disease from someplace else. He ended up catching that disease from someplace else, and it was not from a woman. That's all I can say. He ended up catching that disease. Viewer discretion is advised. And he had found out that because the symptoms started to hit him. He actually had it for like almost 10 years, but the symptoms had got so bad on him where like he's basically dying. And he didn't want to have nothing to do with raising a baby. And who had to take care of him? It was his girlfriend Zalika, the one that he been doing wrong, the one that he been cheating on and stuff. She took care of him and everything. And he also had an uncle named Marion. He also had an uncle named Marion who was Gay, and his uncle was share like not an uncle. I meant his brother, his brother Marion, not uncle. His brother Marion was Gay, and like he invited Alexis over to his place. That was the last time that him and Alexis that last time he had seen Alexis, his brother, alive. He had wanted to show these outfits off. These outfits that he had got from the mall, he wanted to show it off to Alexis. Alexis sat back in the chair, looking paler and, looking more sicker and stuff. He been frequently, throwing up more often, not been able to keep nothing down, been sick, having the sniffles and stuff like that. A cough that could not go away, like he was just staying sick as a dog. And he watched his brother try on all these outfits, and he enjoyed watching his brother just be happy parading around in these outfits and stuff. He had like this fuzzy scarf and stuff. His brother was flamboyant, and he accepted his brother for who he was. And that was the last time that the brother Marion seen his brother Alexis. And the two of them never really been that close like that when they were younger, but they got closer, as they, grew older around this time. And Edwin ended up having a talk with Alexis. The two of them ended up talking. Alexis ended up telling about, his health problems and stuff. And Edwin didn't have no clue that he was sick. Like, really, man? I didn't know. And they were like, well, I got a question to ask you, and just be honest with me. You don't gotta lie. I already got the truth out of Monica. And when he got the truth out of Monica, Monica broke down and cried and put her face in his lap and like, I'm sorry, Edwin. Please forgive me. Please don't break up with me. He forgave her. He didn't break up with her. He actually got a ring and proposed to her. I know. But he asked Alexis, like, be honest with me, did you sleep with did you sleep with Monica? Like, have you been with Monica? Is Aaron really your child? Like, he was just asking that, and Edwin, not Edwin, Alexis was like, yeah, it happened, and I hated that it did. She kept coming on to me, and it happened. And Edwin like, why? I love you as a brother, and I love her dearly, and we've been together for years. Like, how can the two of you come together and do something like that behind my back? And Alexis was like, I don't know. She was drunk, and I was trying to comfort her. She said about how you don't care about her, how you don't love her, etc. And Edwin like, I always loved her. That's the way Monica talks. But I thought that you would know better to, fall into that mess like that. But, he forgave Alexis. And Alexis glad that his friend did not want to jump all over him and actually forgave him. And right when, right not too long after Edwin made up with Alexis and everything, Alexis ended up, meeting his demise. He ended up passing away from the, virus, from the HIV/AIDS. And he was young. He was like in his mid to late 20s, like in his late 20s, like 27 years of age. And the reason why I call the story Bittersweet Symphony is because the bitter part is that Alexis died, but the sweet part is that Edwin, he forgave Monica. They got married, had another child, and Aaron grew up to be a beautiful little girl. And Monica also gave up the drinking. She left the drinking alone. Um, what do you think? You think this story ended, great? It was an old story that I came up with, but yeah, I think I came up with it like 2 years ago. But yeah, but this is the end of the video. It's kind of long. But I hope you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't. If you're new here, welcome to my channel, Willa Candy's channel. On this channel, I eat food, I tell stories just like I did a while ago, and I also would tell stuff that happened on the news. And if you don't know what happened with the Jim Jones massacre, I suggest you look it up. But anywho, thanks for visiting my channel. I hope you all have a great day and be safe out there. Love one another, treat everyone with respect. Please drive safely out there. If you feel like you're having a bad day and you're stressed out or anything, always know that there's hope around the corner. Hope is not far from you. And thank you to all the subscribers. Thanks to all the supporters. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, and goodbye.